Hello, hello. Definitely feeling some tension. I'm like, the anticipation right before streaming, it's like, ah! And I'm listening to this loop over and over again, and it's making me feel like on a high wire. Let's actually, yeah, whoa. Now I can breathe. I felt like I was getting really wound up there for a second. Welcome back to another Selway Techno Saturday. Nice to be here again. I see the chat is already getting going. Hey Max, 343 Labs, Thomas, I guess. Must be Thomas, right? Robot Dharma back again. Nice to see you. Tsotni, yes. Glad you're in the house. Sonia Maria, welcome. Avon, think I've seen you around here before. Hello. And yeah. So as usual, Saturday, Techno time. I'm John Selway. I think you know that, but if you don't, now you know. And I'm here doing my thing, making techno in various ways, shapes, and forms. And this last couple weeks have been kind of on this pumping, 90s influenced, tracky, rolling vibe. I'm definitely continuing that today. I'm going to take the loops that I played with last time and start to try to build it up into something. I mean, okay, it usually takes me longer than an hour to arrange, so we're not going to finish a track right now, but I'm just going to think about how to approach it and show you guys and talk about what I'm doing. As always, ask questions. Throw your questions into the chat, and I'll do my best to keep up with that and to acknowledge and to respond. And we've been doing giveaways again. I believe this week it is an Arturia plugin, Pigments, which is a great synth. I enjoy it. We use it in my synth and sound design course. We're not going to announce the winner today, but there will be links in the chat with info about entering for that giveaway, and I think we're going to announce tomorrow in our feedback session with Atropolis, which definitely, if you have a track you're working on or you've got questions about what you're doing and you want to get some real-time feedback from an excellent certified Ableton Live instructor, do stop in tomorrow for the feedback. Right. I guess sorry Max, I had my mic level pumped up a little bit for a Zoom call where someone couldn't hear me for some reason. So is that better? Is that a little bit cleaner sounding? All right, I hope so because I don't have the monitor set up. Anyway, let's check and see what I've got going on in Ableton Live. And hopefully, again, if the sound is still a problem, please let me know. Yeah, normally, this is actually the first time I've got the stream rolling without doing a test with Thomas ahead of time, and usually if there's an issue with the volume or any distortion, we hear it then. So, still distorted, that's crazy. All right, wow, because I have good levels. Oh, I know what it is. Oh, this is a dumb mistake to make in front of everybody. It's the sample rate. This is actually, it's just like a good, this would be like a teaching moment in class. Like, what's that digital noise I hear? I can't tell what it is. So I think what's happening here is I was working on another project earlier, an older project that was recorded at a different sample rate, and it was 44.1, so I changed my hardware to 44.1. but my video streaming setup here is at 48. So I think that's what we're hearing. Let's change that. How does it sound now? It should be cleaner. You should not hear this high frequency noise happening on top. Let me know. I love it. All my tension just got derailed. The tension was broken. I did say I was going to talk about building and breaking tension. Well, this whole incident with the sample rate just broke our tension, and we lost our energy. And even though that's not arranging music, it's still that same feeling you get. You know, when you hear a track and like something comes in wrong or something goes away wrong, and you're like, I don't like, you know, that feeling that your body reacts to in dance music when the energy level is wrong. Like, you know, like a disappointing drop. Anybody ever see that video some guy did a few years ago where he did a video? It was, anyway. Exactly. I gotta play fast and loose and improv and handle like these situations and turn it into something that relates to what the main topic is. So actually that kind of worked out. Okay, so back to the loops. Last time I had I kind of was going in two directions. I had kind of a rougher, chunkier freight train coming, kind of heavy looping thing. And then I also started playing with some disco loops and a little bit of atmosphere and like a little bit of melody. So I like this groove I've got going on right now. So it's the sub bass, which I tweaked a little bit since last time. It was a little bit too high and a little bit too much. I wanted it to be more rumbly and more under. And so now it's filtered down more. And then I've got these two drum loops going. Then I've got this filter disco loop. And it's a little crunchy. It's got some distortion. I don't want it to be too clean. But I kind of like it just there, like low pass without all the high, the disco hi-hats in it. It's heavy, but it's also got that kind of flying, atmospheric. So it's not a freight train. You're flying. You're like above the clouds right now. And this is definitely a good energy level to begin from. I'm just gonna go ahead and record some of that in. All right, so now I'm feeling the urge to make something change, but I kind of want to resist that. I don't want to over anticipate. So, and this is definitely the tension part. This is make them wait. What's gonna happen? And we can make small little changes. Maybe I'll save that for later. So I'm kind of thinking about this arrangement linearly at this point. I just decided where I'm going to start, and now I'm going to figure out where I'm going to go next. So I think maybe, and I'm doing it in real time too. Let's do the kick drum. Whoa. That came in that was a big bang. Sonia Maria says my washing machine is at the same BPM, creeping me out. Can you record it and send me a sample of it so I can make a sample of it? That'd be fun. I like this. I know my energy is good if I can listen to it for a long time and not get too bored of it. And I know in the back of my mind, I know I'm going to change some things and tweak some things in the arrangement later. But for this kind of hypnotizing groove, I think just waiting is fine. There's a hi-hat. Still just waiting to see what happens. And real simple. Like, I think I'm just doing like 32 bar, yeah. I think I'm gonna make let's drop the kick drum out here. This would probably be the moment where a new element should come in. All right, oh, you know what? I just realized I've been recording something this whole time, which has been there. Aha. That's the thing that's gonna come in, but it won't come in suddenly. I'll fade it in somehow. All right, here comes the kick drum again. How many minutes are we now? 3 minutes. I'm like halfway done. Or I'm a little more than halfway done, depending on the length that you want. All right. Is it too soon to take the kick drum away again? Maybe this is a place where a new element comes in. So we're ratcheting up to another level of energy or a change in atmosphere, depending on what we do. I think this is I don't want a super long break here. It's probably long enough after the next couple of bars. And I dropped out that distorted higher percussion loop, which is, you know, when I talk about breaking tension, that's exactly what I'm talking about. You're making a contrast that suddenly changes the energy level. How many minutes are we? All right, something has to change, right? I'm gonna bring back in that other loop. And I think this is, you know, at this point, it's a placeholder. So I won't just suddenly bring it in. I'll figure out how to fade it in or do some kind of effects automation or something to bring it in. But mainly, like, at that moment in the arrangement, I want that to be there. And then, you know, I can go back and figure out how to make that happen. One last kick drum drop out, I think. Let's lose the hi-hat when the kick drum comes back in. That's a maybe. But that's definitely a, like, the track is ending kind of feel. Now, I just had a thought. That disco chord loop has been going the whole time. And I probably could have dropped it out earlier for contrast and then brought it back. So that's something I can figure out. Let's lose it though. And just go down to the beats and the bass. Okay, well, I'm already past 6 minutes. It's definitely long enough for a tracky techno DJ tool. All right. I think I'm just gonna let it go a couple more bars and then stop the whole thing. Right.
So I said, oh, I'm not going to arrange this track like in an hour, but this could almost be done. It depends on how much you want to finesse it. I mean, obviously there were a couple of changes I made there that were questionable after the fact. I did it and I'm like, so I need to go back and figure that out. And then also, we can hear just the structure of things dropping out, repeating for long enough, just repeating one thing creates tension. And then making any change breaks that tension. And then the energy level of how many layers are happening at once builds up energy and creates increase in tension. And then when you take something away again, and you have fewer, the energy level goes down and then you're lowering the tension. I've got a couple of questions here. Sonia asks, do you mix as you compose or wait till the end? For this kind of music, for me, the mixing and the sound design and the composition all happen at once. I mean, I will go back and go over the mix and do like a final mix, but when I'm at the point of making an arrangement, I want it to be close to sounding finished. I mean, it's never perfect. Like I've never, you never have like a perfect mix and then you're done. Like from the beginning, you always have to fix something. Like that's just realistic. But yeah, I think because, when you're composing electronic music where the character of the sound and the balance of the sound is so important to the groove and the musical idea, I think learning to mix as you go can be really advantageous. That said, if your mixing skills are not quite there in terms of like how fast and effectively you can do things, it can get in the way. But it definitely pays to like start to learn to do certain things from the beginning. So, and because how you mix your kick will affect how well your track grooves, how well the drum grooves, that kind of thing, and how well it's balanced with the bass and all that stuff that people obsess over. Avon asks, what launch mode are you using to have it sync correctly? Everything's just on one bar, the default. I'm not doing anything tricky. And I don't have a push or an APC controller hooked up to trigger clips or anything. I'm just using my mouse and I'm doing one thing at a time with my hand. So, but yeah, in order to have it drop into if I want something to come in on bar 33, I need to select the clip right before. So like once I hit bar 32, I'm clicking or pressing the button on the push to bring in the clip on the beat where I want it to. And of course you can change that. You can bring things in on quarter notes or 16th notes or half notes or no grid at all and have it totally be crazy and random and train wrecky on purpose if you want. I don't know. Some people might do that for certain styles of music that are more experimental. All right. Let's take a look now. Since I have, I have a big picture now, and I did this real time. It was it's not like live. It's sort of like you do in a live performance with a controller, and you'd bring things in and out in real time. And this is relatively easy to do when you only have a few layers, and you're not expecting to do everything at the moment. So this can be a good way to get started. And this is definitely, Abe in his show yesterday talked about different approaches for arranging, and this is one of them. Is sort of doing it in real time and then going back and fixing it. I'm kind of and there's also like if you click and drag and if I were to say, okay, I want to start with my kick and then drag it into the bar where you want it to start, for example, where it's totally linear from the beginning to the end, and you're sort of just stretching it out to fill out the time that it needs to be, and you're making your decisions along the way how you want to change the arrangement. So I'm doing those two approaches, like thinking ahead about where I want it to go from the beginning till the end, but then doing that in real time so that I get it done fast. And now we can go back and we can switch our mode of arranging. Abe also talked about subtractive arranging, where you put everything in there and then you take away from it to give your arrangement a shape. Anytime, once you have like a rough outline or a big overview of your arrangement, you're switching into subtractive mode when you make changes. So that's another thing I'd like to add to the whole arrangement conversation that we're having this week, is that, when you start a track, you may pick one way to go, but as you work on it, you will switch between different ways of thinking about changing the structure. So you may, at some point subtract, you may at some point improvise and add elements. And there's also making variations of what you have over the course of the arrangement, like adding in fills and changing things that, or creating elements that weren't there when you started. Right. So I'm going to start to look, now that I've got this rough outline, I'm going to start to think about finessing it and enhancing the tension that I'm creating and enhancing the transitions and the breaking of the tension where there's contrast. So let's listen again. Right, so I've got these 3 layers with the 2 drum loop, well, 4 layers, 2 drum loops, the chord, and the sub bass. I could start without the sub, and that gives me another level to play with. Let's see how it sounds if I bring the sub layer in later. Actually, I think that's a little too long. Let's just have it come right in after 8 bars. It might be okay. Oh, here's another, you know what? I need to fix this. Remember, I didn't realize I was recording this other loop. It was muted. And then I turned it on while it was recording. And so now I have some automation, but I don't want to use the automation to do the arrangement move. I want to start a clip at a certain point. So let's check the automation there. Oops, show automation. There we go. So here's where it's coming on. So right there. All right. So now I'm going to delete that. Look, I don't need that automation. Let's right click, delete automation. And now I'll figure out where I want that to come in when the time comes. You can also think about playing around with the filter on this disco loop a little bit. And I want to be really subtle about this. I don't want to be tweaking it up and down randomly. So I'm just going to add breakpoints every 32 bars because that's sort of, was roughly thinking in 32 bar sections as I recorded this. And maybe just do a little bit of an increase on that. So just subtly make it just slightly brighter. Actually, you know what? Right there, I'm going to have it go back down. Why not? Whoa. And that kick is brutal. It's got a lot of it's crunchy. It's got a lot of distortion on it. So it sounds like it's blowing the speaker up already. All right, let's bring up that filter again. And I'll bring it the next time the next change happens, I'm going to bring the filter up just a little bit more than I did the first time. So like a slightly higher level of energy, a little bit more tension at that point. And it gives you the feeling of evolving into something without actually adding another layer to it. All right. And right here, before the hi-hat comes in, let's drop a kick drum out. It's the easiest thing to do. Right before. I mean, okay, that's sort of a cliche to do. It kind of always works. Although after I did it, I was like, maybe that moment broke the tension too much. Sometimes you want a sudden stop in the groove. Other times, especially if it's early in the track and you're still getting to where you want to be, maybe doing that is a little too much. So actually, I'm going to go roll that back and listen again without the kick drum drop. At the same time, I already thought about doing this, but I got distracted by the kick drum. I'm going to suddenly lower the filter on the loop again, just a little bit. All right, that was a little bit too much, but did you hear how it just switched? So, just the tiniest little change makes a huge difference in the feeling right at that moment. That's good. All right, I'm also going to try bringing in the hi-hat ahead of the beat a little bit. So it's going to kind of, you expect the hi-hat to come in after the first kick, but sometimes it's nice to just have things sort of fly in a little bit off and in a way that smooths out the transition. Yep. It's like two little switches. Like the hi-hat comes in early and then the filter drops. And it changes the energy level just subtly. All right, let's bring the filter up on the loop again. A little more quickly this time. And then here that was perfect. The kick drum drops out and then the filter is opening up more. And I'm going to drop it down again. Okay, whoa. That wasn't right. It was suddenly like, Gosh. So I'm at a big turning point here. This is where I have to figure out what to do about this higher, more energetic, dirty layer that kind of it changes the vibe a lot, right? Bringing it in suddenly, I think, is too much. It'll probably work better if I sneak it in. So let's go back. All right, I'm going to put it in before I need it. And all right, also I can think about, this sound it's very bright, and I didn't design it to like go bright and dark already, so I can add some effects to it maybe. Even just simple volume might do it. All right. Let's see how it works just with the volume fade. Instead of using my track volume to do automation, I like to keep my track volumes just for mix levels. And if I want to do volume automation, I use another device. I put these effects in an audio effect rack, and that chain volume in that rack is the same level that a track fader would give you, from silence to plus whatever. All right, so now maybe I'll start sneaking it in a little bit before where that kick drum drops out, so it's already kind of making itself known. And it's going to add to the background atmosphere when it's real quiet. I can barely hear it. Yeah, see. What is going on here? I know what it is. The filter's dropping too soon. And the filter needs to stay up on that chord. That might do it. Pretty trancy, isn't it? Now maybe it's too much. It definitely, like, it's even more mental now at that higher level. Definitely, like, we're getting into this. It's a hypnotic hard techno groove with that element fading in like that. So I think what's going to make or break this is the balance. Like, I don't know if leaving it in there too loud is going to be... I think it takes away too much. Maybe if I just suddenly drop it again like I did with the filter. That kind of helps a little. And then, I don't know, there's a bunch of delay on it on a return channel. So whenever it stops, you hear it echoing away. So even if I suddenly drop it here, the delays kind of carry over and make it so it's not as sudden. I might even be able to drop it a little bit more. Right. Yeah, I don't mind it kind of disappearing again. Right? It's like this more intense thing came out and reached out and tried to grab you and then got away, or you got away, and it didn't grab you. And I'm fading it back in again. I'm thinking about tweaking the sound a little bit to make it more aggressive, more bright. And I have this overdrive in here. I can make it slightly brighter, just a little bit. And there's also the tone controls on the distortion on the pedal plug-in here. So these are all things I can play with to like subtly increase the intensity and build tension as it repeats. Wow, so we're at the halfway point. I'm into this. Things are going well today. I see some more names in the chat here, including some very familiar ones. So glad to have you here, Nikki. Nikki's a great friend of, my family and me. We've been friends for a long time, and glad to have her in our lives. And good to see her here. And hello, Oscar Herrera. You're also, I see, I think a new name. Thanks for saying great vibe. I agree. I'm feeling the vibe. And Avon, thanks. Glad you like it. What else is going on here? Just let's take a moment to breathe. If you got, again, I'm feeling the tension here. Walking on a tightrope. I'm up on a high wire with this. Trying to like get this working really well and doing a good job musically, as well as like paying attention to you guys and segueing into my responsibilities presenting here for 343 Labs, and to remind you all that 343 Labs is a music production school. We have online classes, which are going great. And we have 2 locations, New York, our home base, and now in Berlin. And we're offering in-person classes in both locations. Please visit 343labs.com for more info about upcoming courses, to see what's scheduled, what's available. And and then also just, to take a moment to, mention how 343 TV is our way of reaching out to a wider kind of global audience, sharing what we're doing and getting more people involved. And I got to say, I really enjoy doing these streams. I'll be honest, at first I was hesitant. I'm like, I don't know about the streaming thing, man. Like, it's kind of, and the technical issues and getting everything working and, dropped packets in your stream from OBS. And and then all that having to deal with all that and like present an interesting program. So now after doing it over the summer, I'm much more comfortable and I'm having more fun with it. So I'm really glad that I've had this opportunity. So Max and TAETRO, thanks for pushing us into this. I appreciate what we're doing here. Looks like we got another question. Speaking of, from Max, how often do you feel you need to bring the energy up and down in a track? I think it depends. This one's going to have a fairly simple overall arc. I mean, it's really, I'm thinking like, I'm not going to do a lot of contrast in this one. And, you know, this is supposed to be, you know, my goal for this is not to go too far outside of the headspace and the atmosphere and the feeling that I established in the beginning. I kind of want it to grow and then end. You know, it's not songwriting here. I'm not doing like A, B, verse, chorus, middle eight kind of, it's not like up and down a lot. It's supposed to be fairly linear and then with a few important points of contrast. And, you know, the typical generic format for a track like this is, you know, there's an intro, a build up, a break, and then the beats come back and then it goes down and then there's an outro. So staying within that pretty much, right? And, you know, it's basically this, you know, this is a DJ tool. Like, you know, were there a dark, you know, basement with a really heavy sound system with strobe lights, and if there were a party that we could all go to and hear this at, that's, you know, kind of what this kind of music is for. And Max also asked, I like your questions today, Max. Do you always record your arrangement in real time or do you map it out intellectually? When I want to do a more hypnotic kind of grooving, growing, simple arrangement where I don't want to get too complicated, I definitely lean towards real time. And there's a couple of different ways I approach it. If I'm using hardware, I like to lead with the hardware. And I've done this before on Techno Tuesdays. I did sometimes use like an external piece of gear and record that and just jam tweaking the synth for a few minutes. And then, you know, all these little tweaks that I'm doing with the automation right now, those are things that I would be thinking ahead about doing with my knob twiddling, you know, like performing the sound in real time to give these subtle transitions and build up of energy and breakdown of energy just within the synth sound itself. And then, you know, so do that in real time and then use that as a guide for my overall structure. So that's, you know, and you can do that same approach with plugins and MIDI control. And I definitely could have started with that here. This time though, I'm doing a real-time approach, but rather than start with the tweaking, I'm starting with the rough outline of the main elements, like when the kick drum's playing, when the hi-hat comes in, like these kind of, you know, the bread and butter, like backbone sounds of the track. And then going in, sort of sketching that out in real time because it's quick. And then going back in and going into another layer of detail and starting to think about taking the sounds that I have and sculpting them around the rough shape that I made in real time. Hey, Benny. Glad you're here. Greetings from up in Westchester. Max is really hitting me with the questions today, keeping me on my toes. Would you or do you perform live with Ableton and what's your setup? I have. I don't practice live a lot, but I have done it. Last year and the year before, Christian Smith and I developed a live performance. And so I have a setup for that. Maybe I can share that one of these days. And then also Jason Sostek, who I do Serotonin records with, and we do kind of the weird, nerdy, crazy, funky electro stuff. We have a live set that's more jam-oriented with lots of machines and hardware. It's kind of two different approaches. But yeah, with Christian, it's like a lot of pre-designed stuff on the computer, and we're kind of doing remixing, rearranging with stuff on top. And it's more sort of repeatable, like more consistent. I would call it a bit like live hybrid, you know, like a little DJ, a little live. And that's heavily computer based with Synapse that I do with Jason. There's much more gear and more separate sequences running on individual synths and multiple drum machines, and everything's all synced up. And we do have stuff coming out of a computer, and I have like sounds and effects and things that I can manipulate in real time. And it's sort of like the master brain for the mix and everything. But then we're also hands-on on the gear, so we can just totally improvise and go off the cuff. This is a good show today. I'm having a good time. I hope you are too. Let's get back into the music before we run out of time and I totally lose my vibe. I was getting deep in there, and then we made our halfway stop, and I just started talking too much. So let's listen again to what we've got, and I'll see if I can get back into the right headspace. All right, that is... fading in our noise, our distorted percussion, really. Let's make that clip start over here. We can't even hear it until that bar anyway. So this is our first sort of bigger break, I guess. See if this transition still works. Not bad. I think it's a good energy level to go down to, because we can go further the next time. Really try to let it rip a little bit. And I think it's fading up a little too soon. Now, I dropped the kick drum out here. I think it's not ready yet. I'm going to leave the kick drum in, and this is probably... I need another element here. I can feel right there at 113. I'm going to set myself a marker. The easiest thing to do, pretty typical, would be to put in like a ride cymbal or another layer of high-frequency percussion. It could also be like a crash or white noise or something. You know, this is sort of a, a stylistic choice. I'm going to keep it simple and do like classic 909. And we'll just use I'm not going to get crazy on sound design here. Let's just use the one that's available to us here in the live library. Whoa, a little loud. Make a clip. So that's another thing. Like I could have, as it relates sort of to the idea about approaching arranging, is I already knew earlier on I probably would want to add more percussion to this. But I wanted to get into the outline and the overall shape of this and the overall vibe with what I had before I started adding elements, potentially changing and going in another direction. That happened the first time when I started adding elements to this. I kept adding stuff, and it started out really hard and rolling and distorted and drummy, and then I kept adding elements that were bringing the energy down. Actually, I was kind of getting into this moodier, darker direction, which I'm still sort of in. I was trying to find the balance between the two. I want it to be rolling like a freight train and heavy, but I also like this floaty atmosphere that chord has. So that's why I stopped adding stuff. And I wanted to just get the vibe that was working down quickly. And I think, learning to work quickly for this kind of music is good, because you capture that feeling and you don't lose it by taking too long and wandering around. Max says I need a sax. Okay. Maybe we got to try out some of these online collaboration apps now for audio, like low latency audio over the internet. Maybe we could actually experiment and have you play in real time, and I'll track it. We have the technology, actually. It's a little complicated, but it's getting better. All right, so back to where I was. Let's get this ride cymbal happening. And I'm just putting the clip. This is another advantage of waiting until you have the arrangement fleshed out to add more elements, because you know where they belong now. Like, I know that bar 113 is where I needed something. So I just put the clip right there instead of it just being a loop going over and over and over again in my session view. And I have a clear path for adding this element. All right. Super simple. You know, maybe I'll try to make this snazzier later on, but let's hear how that comes in. Maybe here I'll do the kick drum drop. Let's see if it works. And bring in the ride cymbal right there. Easiest trick in the book, for one of them. Just panning my open hi-hat and my ride a little bit for some separation and width in the mix. Actually, that worked out pretty well. Let me preview that. That was an accidental good mix arrangement move, maybe. I'm going to add a little delay and reverb at the end of the ride. I don't know why, as you see. It needs its own effect. I'm wondering, I was thinking this chord needs some change, because it's fully open for all this time. And it could go down again as the other one fades in. That works. You know what? I kind of like that. This might be the move. Rather than trying to make it brighter and more intense, I take it away when that other one comes in, that brighter layer comes in, and then I can bring it back. All right, something funny about the timing here. Where that kick drum drops out, maybe, I'm not sure. Let's do it here instead. Better. Let's make a big drop. I'm going to take away both of those elements. I'm not sure. I need to back it up and hear that transition again. empty. Maybe too soon. You know what? I'm going to leave it up. The ride going away is enough. Let's try taking... The hi-hat's been in there this whole time. It's never gone away. Let's see if that is a change that'll hold up. Not terrible. I'll bring the hi-hat back. Take away. I'm going to bring back the higher dirty layer and bring up the smoother chord again. All right, that was a bad copy paste job there. I'm kind of at this point in the arrangement, I'm not as worried about exact 8, 16, 32. It might be fun to kind of have things be a little bit more spontaneous. And actually, once you start bringing elements in and out more quickly, it adds to the overall, you're building tension, breaking tension, changing, making contrast. And the more you do that, the more sort of the overall energy kind of feels like it's less sort of slowly growing up. And it's, I think it is its own energy in a way to have things changing really more quickly. Although I'm not going to start doing like little glitchy cuts and stuff like that. More just increasing the frequency of change. Why not? Extra kick drum, I don't know. All right, I might just, now that ride's in there, I feel like I'm missing the energy. Maybe we can just bring it back in together with the hi-hat. And that extra. Okay, fine. Honestly, the DJ's already starting to think about mixing out of this track. So we don't have to get too fancy. Maybe we just start bringing it down back to earth again and have it be a little bit shorter. Maybe too long. All right. I feel like, if I'm mixing out at 5 minutes, hey, I have a guest. Someone just popped up behind me. Who was that? You're going to have to be sneakier than that. You know what I did? I just took away the sub bass and I didn't even notice it was gone. That's a mix element, I think, that I need to worry about. All right. What happens if I take away one of the layers of percussion from my mix out section? Not terrible. we might be good at about 5.5. It's like the last gasp of that. All right, so I need to work on this ending a little bit. All right, I think we want to look at stopping right about here. Almost, yeah, 5:45-ish. Right. I think I got my length. This track, as it is, unless I start getting more complex and musical and adding more parts and thinking of a more, detailed structure, this doesn't need to be longer than just almost 6 minutes. I think a tracky, techno roller doesn't need to be an epic, right? In and out. And keep that vibe going the whole time. Keep the energy the way you want it the whole time. So, almost time to wrap things up. And let's just check back into the chat. And I haven't. Sonia mentioned Endless App by Tim Exile. He's done a lot of interesting applications and plugins and things. I have not looked at that. I will check it out for sure. I was actually looking just for purely getting audio from one computer to another at a high quality easily. There's a web service called Clean Feed that's sort of designed with podcast, radio, broadcast in mind, to do interviews and things like that. But they have a free, cleanfeed.net, and they have a free account, and you can have someone connect to you directly and give you a pretty high quality audio with fairly low latency, like good enough to kind of do it. So that's something to look into. I think some people are using it to, before Zoom added higher quality audio settings, people were using Clean Feed as an alternative for that when they're doing their Zoom meetings. But there's some other music-oriented things. There's something coming out called Virtual Studio, and it's a Linux thing. It runs on Raspberry Pi, and it uses something called Jack Trip. And it's all very nerdy and hard to use. But it's geared towards, vocalist, live instrument performers so that people can sing and play together. It's like designed with high-quality, low latency, multiple channels of audio. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what works with that. If people can actually play in ensembles or sing together or play any kind of music, a band or, produce techno even, somehow in real time over the internet, that would be pretty amazing. And yeah, Benny mentions The Finger by Tim Exile. That's a crazy performance instrument. You can get wild with that. So, thanks, Nikki. Glad you like it. And as a reminder, we do have this giveaway, not announcing the winner today. That will be tomorrow during the feedback session with Metropolis. So you still have time to enter. And, of course, please check out 343labs.com. Whatever links we have in the description here, click on those. Click like. Sign up for notifications. Help us out. Subscribe. That's the thing, right? YouTubers are always wanting you to subscribe. Well, I guess I'm one of those guys now, and I'm begging you, please. Yeah, I'm really prostrating myself right now. All right, enough of that. Thanks to everyone that came in today. Thanks, Caesar, Paul, Benny, Nikki, and Max, of course, Sonia. Who else did we have in here today? Robot Dharma, Avon, Sutney. And I think that covers almost everybody. TS Projects. Did I get everybody? Glad to have you here. Next week on Saturday, I will have a special guest. And every 4 episodes that I do is going to be Techno Friends. So it's going to be more about hanging out and discussion and, maybe a little production is relevant, but, an opportunity to reach out to people that I know and work with, and maybe some new ones, and hopefully some interesting names for you guys to hear from, and kind of make some more of a connection between like the education side that we're on coming from here in 343 Labs, and then like the actual world of music, and what's going on with what we do and how we get out there and how making things happen in our current situation that we're in. So that's Techno Friends coming up next week. The track review, yes, Caesar says the track review is tomorrow, and not sure the time of that, but of course you can check our YouTube channel here to see what's scheduled and upcoming, and then subscribe or get a notification for when it's starting. So that's it for now. I think we're just after 2, and I'm looking forward to seeing you guys again next week. And as always, tune in every day for 343 TV. And until next time, adios.